Und damit herzlich willkommen zurück bei The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Und Junge, was ist in den letzten Folgen alles passiert? Kazuma ist zurück, sein Vater ist der Massenmörder, der Professor, der den Bruder von Barock van Zieks erledigt hat. Van Zieks selber ist jetzt angeklagt, Gregson erschossen zu haben, den Detektiv Tobias Gregson. Den Detektiv, das ist so, als ob Edgeworth Gumshoe umbringen würde. Nur mal so, um das in ein Verhältnis zu stellen. Und Kazuma, der jetzt zurück ist einfach Staatsanwalt und wird den Fall machen. Und wir verteidigen Van Zieks. Und wir stehen jetzt gegen unseren besten Freund im Gericht. Und es ist erst der 4. Fall und nicht schon der 5. Und ich weiß gar nicht, was überhaupt noch abgeht. Es wird sicherlich noch krasser. Ich weiß nicht wie. Wir werden es sehen. Wir starten rein. Oh Gott. 2nd November, 8:56 a.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. There's that old familiar feeling again. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no. It's a little different today. There's an even more menacing tension in the air. Immerhin haben wir Susato. Immerhin ist Susato nicht die... Immerhin switcht sie nicht die Seiten und steht wieder an Kazumas Seite, sondern ist an unserer Seite. Das ist immerhin etwas. There's a menacing tension in the air here today, isn't there? I suppose. Yes, I think so. Oh, there is the man. It can only be the result of the menacing appearance of the defendant. A little more courtesy, if you please. Forgive the discourtesy. Oh my, I do apologize. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to the details. However, I understand that no jury has been selected. Das ist gut, dann kommt es nicht zur Summation Examination. Bin ich total okay. Das bin ich total in Ordnung, dass keine Jury da ist. A trial without a jury? Well, that's just like the trial of the professor 10 years ago. Okay, a closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes! Have you made note of my hair, Mr. Naruhodo? An outright victory for science, you must agree. Hat wie ein normales Haar. Das ist eine normale Haarfarbe. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your little hair problem. Ha! What to one man is a little hair problem is to another a day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. You have no idea how my stomach ails me this morning. Oh dear, how awful for you. I'm afraid you only have yourself to blame, Mr. Sholmes. And good morning to you, Mr. Weeper. I'm delighted to see you looking so full of vim. And I see London's celebrated great detective is as active as ever. Oh, you exaggerate, my dear fellow. Compared to my paltry engagement with a few trivial cases, the Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent to the black roots of crime in our capital. And whilst I may not agree with your methods, there's at least one point in which I would readily commend you. What an honor. And that would be? Your eye for a good lawyer, sir. Das ist ja irgendwie nett von Herlock. Mr. Sholmes. After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind. My own. Okay, das ist nicht so nett. What are you trying to say? I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial, Mr. Weeper. Sorry to barge in. Oh. Gina und Mikotoba. Gina. What's that on her arm? It's a mourning band, I suppose. Ein Trauerband? Father, shouldn't you be at the symposium? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspector to see our country's up-and-coming student in action. Gar kein Druck, Janoske, gar kein Druck. Der sowieso schon gar nicht da war. I shall be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits to see. Otto. Oh, yes, Gina. Why do you agree to this, eh? Why do you take him on? This Reaper bloke. Everyone says it was him. What killed the boss? I'm sorry, Gina, but I just don't believe that. Well, if it weren't him, who was it? I don't know that. Yet. I don't care who calls him what. The Reaper's just a name. He's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him what killed the boss, then God help him. Fiery eyes, indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. Eh? At least that may be some solace to the deceased. Please, Otto. Get whoever did this. For the boss. Machen wir. Versuchen wir. Unter dem Druck. Oh, Gina. I hate feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you've gotta find who done this and make the wedge pay. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court will be in session shortly. Make your way into the courtroom at once, please. Alright then, here we go. Puh. Was da jetzt wohl passieren wird. Oh shit. It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. Lord von Siegs. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murderer. One who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law. And one who lost a man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong and destroy. It's time to shine a light on all these dark events. And whatever truth it revealed, we're going to have to look it straight in the eye. 2nd November, 9:20 AM, The Old Bailey Courtroom. Ich bin gespannt. Ich bin gespannt. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to conduct the fair and just trial of the defendant, Baroque van Siegs. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready to begin? The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Oh, Kazuma-sama. I've been wishing to see you in court again for so long, it feels. But I never pictured it happening like this. I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecution's bench. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today, we must uncover the truth behind the scourge. In other words, this trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Inspector Gregson's murder. The truth revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions to the judiciary. Accordingly, they are to be conducted as a closed trial with no members of the public present, by Her Majesty's direct orders. How will that work, my lord? The burden of all arbitration in education falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the jurors' bench shall remain vacant today. If no members of the public are present, might I ask who is currently occupying the gallery, my lord? They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and ensure an equitable trial. Members of the judiciary. Oh my, this is a very unusual trial already. There is of course another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate. Judiciary ist... Ja, okay, Gerichtswesen, Judikative. Hätte man sich denken können, kann man sich auch denken, aber ich wollte jetzt mal eine direkte Übersetzung haben. There's of course another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate. The counsels for the prosecution and the defense are both aliens of Great Britain. I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes. And as I stand here in this courtroom now, I'm quite certain. This is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Kazuma. Very well, let us commence proceedings. Prosecutor Asogi, your opening statement, if you please. Certainly, my lord. The incident took place on 1st November at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The location was a building of flats on Fresno Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property. Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson, a name known very well indeed to this court. Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of this country's grimmest cases 10 years ago. The Professor case. How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street outside heard the gunshot and all have reported the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There were a number of witnesses. I have here a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. It's believed that he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly. How has the range been determined? There are scorch marks around the entry wound. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullet. But powder hot enough to leave the scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range. I see, yes. Thank you for the detailed explanation, Counselor. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. Inspector Gregson's autopsy report stating that death was instant, resulting from a bullet shot at close range. Okay. Gucken wir uns den dann mal an. Corona Mariah Gowrie, victim name Tobias Gregson, male, age 45, nationality British, time of death. Hä? Time of death steht da einfach nicht. Okay. Cause of death, victim was shot in the chest at close range from the front, resulting in instant death. Scorch marks at point of entry. The bullet exited the wound from behind. Additional observations: the caliber of the gun used matches that of standard issue firearms from members of the judiciary. Okay. The murder weapon was found lying beside the victim. And have you managed to ascertain the owner of this firearm? No, my lord. Not conclusively. Bravo, Kazuma-sama, for not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven. Das stimmt. Furthermore, my lord, as I've explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There's a candelabrum mounted on that wall, and the tip of one of the candles in it was found to have been blown off by the projectile. We noticed that too, didn't we? Yes, that's right. Thank you for the thorough report, Counselor. The setting of the crime is clear to me. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence, please. As you wish, my lord. The crime scene floor has been added. Floor plan has been entered into the court record. A plan of the small room in the building of flats on Fresno Street where the body of the victim, Inspector Gregson, was found. Okay, gucken wir mal. Ja, bisher noch nichts, was groß auffällt, würde ich sagen. Is this Fresno Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode? No, my lord. The room was rented to a Mr. Hugh Boone. But there's precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there? Presumably he was investigating some case or other. When a policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene, he found only the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside, holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot. So, the details of the case are clear. In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. A name, please, counsel. Naturally, the accused himself. Okay. Lord van Zieks. As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of office he's taken, and will be compelled to tell the truth. Very well. Let the defendant take the witness stand. Okay. So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Baroque van Zieks, Old Bailey prosecutor. I presume, Lord van Zieks, that you heard Prosecutor Azogi's opening process. I did. It is alleged that you were found at the scene of the crime, and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm this? Yes, my lord. Then I'm sure the court would like to hear you explain some things away. Namely, why you were there in the room on Fresno Street at the time in question. And what exactly took place. I intend to explain away nothing. I will simply tell the truth. I must say, Lord van Zieks, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come. But since you became known as the Reaper, a part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony then, witness. Bin ich jetzt mal gespannt, was uns erzählt. Witness testimony. The facts of the incident. I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside, and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. That testimony was the whole truth. Okay, also I was... saw no one. I heard the gunshot. Okay, that testimony was the whole truth. Okay. It was. So, you heard a shot being fired in a room with no living occupants. And moments later, a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes. Is that it? You're right, you haven't explained away anything. In fact, it would barely qualify as an excuse. I thought you were my mute apprentice. Yet it turns out you have a way with words, Prosecutor Azogi. It would appear to be a singular tale indeed. Singular isn't the word, it's laughable. What's got into Kazuma? He's not behaving like himself at all. Very well then. Counsel, you may begin your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Okay, cross-examination. The facts of the incident. I was investigating Gregson and my inquiries led me to that address. Ach so, hat nicht mit Gregson investigated, sondern hat Gregson selbst investigated. Okay.
Hold it!
You were investigating the inspector? What on earth for? I'm not at liberty to say. Sorry? I identified a distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in the case I was investigating. Regrettably though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed. Is the court to understand then that on the day in question, you followed the victim to the scene? Okay. No, I was privy to his movements in advance. How? I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. The address on Fresno Street was noted in the 5 PM entry. You illegally entered the man's office. In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Lord Van Zieks? I was aware of the possible consequences. So, in summary, you were investigating the victim. And yet, you refuse to tell the court why. I didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath. Why did I ever think I could defend this man? When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one.
Hold it!
Had you ever been to the address before? No, never. I only learned of the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activities. There was no light inside when I entered, so it was all but impossible to make out anything. But at 5 PM, the sun would only just have gone down. It would still have been reasonably light outside. The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. I wouldn't have noticed if the victim was already lying on the floor. There was no artificial light in the room, you say. You're quite sure? I'm quite sure that the part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small oil lamp burning on the desk though. I couldn't say for certain. Okay. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, ist sogar eingezeichnet. There is a small desk in the room just here. Yes, I remember. And there was an oil lamp on it, as well as a framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started towards the desk to investigate. And what did you find? Nothing. I never actually reached the desk. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor.
Hold it!
So, who fired the gun? I have no idea. I didn't see anybody else in the room. But you say it was very dark in there. Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is, I didn't sense another's presence. Aha, then could it be that the gunshot actually originated from somewhere outside the room? No, that's out of the question. Oh. Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder. This is going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you noticed the revolver on the floor. Correct, and I foolishly picked it up. That was carelessness on my part. Presumably then, the gunshot you heard came from the firearm that somewhat hastily took in your hands. In point of fact, my lord, I believe it did not. What? Okay. The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. Okay. Okay. The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. But then, where on earth is the gun that was fired? Which I would like to oblige you with an answer. I'm afraid I can't. I too would dearly like to know that. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. Hold it! A man, you say? One of the witnesses, I presume? That's right. One of the street merchants working on Fresno Street. Who are these merchants? A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded window of the crime scene. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They've all given statements saying they heard the gunshot. And without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened. Yes, Gina told us about that yesterday, didn't she? They burst through the door with some force, it would seem. They did, and almost gave me a heart attack in the process. But you're supposed to be the Reaper. The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. A policeman patrolling on Fresno Street heard the commotion and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's scream drew my attention in that direction. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. Okay. Witnesses, I presume. Okay. Also es ist jemand reingekommen. Der Stars direkt beneath the boarded window. A newsmonger and a peddler. Was ist ein Matchseller? Also Newsmonger ist Zeitung. Aber Match Seller keine Ergebnisse, perfekt. Peddler. Straßenhändler, okay. Match. Ein Spieleverkäufer, ein Hölzchenverkäufer, keine Ahnung. Streichholz könnte es auch sein. Also das waren die Zeugen. Sort of danger, they went inside to see what happened. Okay, also die sind reingelaufen und haben ihn dann erwischt. Und dann kam ein Polizeimann und hat ihn festgenommen. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. Hold it! What do you mean by that? In what way did the body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and then suddenly, there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground just beforehand? At that moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first. Nothing more. I see. After the man fled, I examined the body. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson. Most curious circumstances indeed. How the inspector was killed, or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere, I have no idea.
Objection!
Surely the court has heard enough. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed. Okay. That the accused, Baroque van Zieks, is lying on multiple forms. Okay. Okay, die Musik, nice. What is that supposed to mean? Good gracious, counsel. The defendant is lying, you say? In his testimony just now, he claims that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was dark. That's correct. No, that's impossible. As proven by this candelabrum. How does it prove anything? If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can see it has been blown off by a powerful impact. Oh, das ist Kazuma-Theme, aber ja, in düsterer oder so. If you examine wahrscheinlich, also wahrscheinlich ist das hier ein Schreibfehler. The top of the long can see it has been blown off by a powerful impact. One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle. The problem comes when you consider the other two candles, which are clearly of a different length. Yes, I can see that only the candle that appears to have been struck by the bullet is long. Oh, okay, dann meint er, die sind zeitgleich abgebrannt und die dritte Kerze, die von der Kugel getroffen wurde, dann scheinbar nicht. Also wurde halt vorher abgeschossen. Und die anderen haben dann noch weiter gebrannt. Ich denke mal, das ist seine Logik hier. We could reasonably expect someone to have lit all three candles together. Which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be because a particular candle was extinguished when the others were still burning. Ah! That's right. When the candle was hit by the bullet, it obviously went out. But the other two candles would still have been burning, so the fact is, the victim's body would have been illuminated by the light still thrown by the candelabrum. And the accused claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. Wow. Selbst als Staatsanwalt sucht er sich Widersprüche raus. And now to the next lie. There's more. The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of the crime before. That's the truth. In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from top to bottom in police documents and newspaper cuttings. Yes, that's right, we saw it too. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they include a number of reports from various historical cases, the oldest of which was from 10 years ago. Der Professor-Fall. 10 years ago, this is starting to sound familiar. And there's a common thread linking all of the documents on that board. Indeed, what is this common thread, counsel? They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Barock van Zieks. Okay, das würde ja dafür sprechen, dass Gregson gegen Lord van Zieks ermittelt hat. Und jetzt wird er wahrscheinlich sagen, dass Lord van Zieks das herausgefunden hat und natürlich deswegen silenzen will, zum Schweigen bringen will. Ich kenn deine Logik, Kazuma. Ich kenn deine Logik. All of them. And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted. Good lord! Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper. Ah! Oh no. In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout and his base of operations. Zu der Conclusion wäre ich jetzt nicht gekommen. The Reaper's hideout? And yet the Reaper would claim never to have been to his own secret hideout. No one would believe that. No, the truth is, we've been looking at this backwards. Backwards? Explain, counsel. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine. By the Reaper's hand. What? Oh